Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's Oracle Access Governance launch webcast. My name is Taylor Lewis, and I'll be your host today. We'd like to make today's event interactive. So we have product team members ready to answer your questions throughout the presentation. Please feel free to ask those questions in our Q&A box. Also, please take a moment to answer the poll questions as they pop up during the presentation. I'm happy to introduce our presenters for today. Eleanor Merritt is the Senior Vice President of Identity and Access Management here at Oracle, and she's going to take you through some of the common challenges organizations are facing and an overview of the new, now available Oracle Access Governance Service. Followed by Brian Ford, Vice President of Software Development and Engineering for IAM. We'll be sharing some of the key service capabilities and a detailed demonstration. At the end of the presentation, I'll select a couple of Q&A questions and share some resources we have available to learn more about this new and exciting service. With that, I'll hand it over to you, Eleanor.
Thank you, Taylor. So I'm really happy to be here today. Thank you for introducing me. So let me dive right in. Why access governance? So it's really all about minimizing risk to assets and data in your ever-expanding business ecosystem. It's about telling you who has access to what, should they have that access, and what are they doing with that access. And when you look at access management and access governance, the complicating factors are when organizations become large and there's more internal mobility. So you need to keep track of whether privileges should still be applied when people move. If you have siloed governance systems that aren't speaking to each other in the context of your business technology ecosystem, then you're limited in what you can govern. You need to have a system that goes across your entire business technology ecosystem. Cloud and multi-cloud and edge and IoT add more assets to govern. And as regulatory scrutiny around privacy and data handling comes ever more important, you need to have a system that manages your access governance. Hackers have become more sophisticated, and insider threats are often where we hear of cases where breaches happen. And access governance is a great system to tell you if you have a user in your organization who's doing something that stands out from the rest. So access governance has to become much more prescriptive and be increasingly agile to deal with today's challenges. When you think about traditional access governance, I think the first word that many people, it comes to their minds is complexity. And complexity and lacking automation really drives lower security value and it increases your risk. So complex integrations with provisional reconciliation, manual permissions management. Anytime I hear the manual word, it really speaks to me that risk increases. And audits where limited information without recommendations is presented to you. So you just get a report and you kind of go, okay, great, what do I do with that? And you might say, well, all right, I look at these access reports for my organization, and I guess, the privileges that the users have been in place for the past 5 years, so maybe I'll just approve again. Or you might take more time and go, well, let me just dive into that again. It involves a whole bunch of questioning across your organization and trying to find out what's really going on. And again, that's really time consuming. And either way, your mitigation of risk, it becomes really high cost. So you can tell the requirements for identity and access governance are evolving, and more complex environments need intelligent and resilient access governance. So we're moving from the provisioning who has access to what to really understanding how access is being used and then dynamically enforcing it. The ecosystem is no longer just on premises, it's also cloud, multiple clouds, IoTs, devices, and so on. And we're not just protecting applications and resources, but we're also protecting data, infrastructure, cloud infrastructure, workloads, and devices. The who we're protecting from is not just people anymore. It's also non-humans, bots, code, DevOps, and how we grant permissions. So role-based access control still has its place, but it's kind of static. It's suitable for long-term, lifetime access rights. But when you have situations which are dynamic, you really need policies in place. So for example, only give somebody access for a certain time. If they happen to be on call as a DevOps person, see that logs during 9 and 5 on a Friday, and then take away that access after that. And compliance needs to be event-driven, has to be periodic, and manual reviews have to be powered by analytics, so intelligent analytics, machine learning, so that you get recommendations on what actions that you can take. So the depth of analytics really matters when it comes to reducing risk. Prescriptive analytics is where you have to go. Better decisions are aided by insights and dramatically reduce your effort. So traditional IGA systems will offer descriptive analytics. So you'll, for example, get an access map of a user providing details about their roles and permissions. Or you might get a bit more information than that. So perhaps you get a risk score, but an assigned privilege based on how it was granted. That's all good, but it's just not enough when you have a complex organization. Next best is predictive analytics. So you generate insights based on usage and peer group analysis. So you can tell if there is anomalous behavior straight away. Where Oracle is going with the access governance service is prescriptive analytics. So here we are going to provide recommendations from access reviewers based on the insights that we see. So we will tell you, well, I think it looks okay to keep this user's privileges because they are very much in line with the rest of the users in the organization, and we don't see any strange behaviors, any anomalous behaviors. Or we will present you immediately with cases where a user looks to be having access which is beyond what normal people in that role have. So you can take action straight away. And this is truly a differentiator. You can go straight to taking action for high-risk items immediately. So I'm very pleased to introduce the Oracle Access Governance Service, which is now generally available. Oracle Access Governance is a cloud-native service that has organization-wide reach, control, and visibility. It manages on-prem targets, major public clouds, third-party, as well as Oracle, SaaS and PaaS targets, and Edge and IoT. And below at the bottom of this slide, you see the types of assets that it can protect. And so we will be adding support for targets as we go along and according to demand. Let me drill into the cloud native benefits. So we have a microservices-based architecture. So you're going to see zero downtime as we add features and as we fix bugs. It's built on Oracle OCI, so it's secure by default. We take advantages of all the Oracle OCI security features. It has business ecosystem-wide visibility and control. So everything within your business ecosystem we can manage and protect. It's got pay-as-you-go subscriptions, so you can use it as often or as infrequently as you want, and therefore you can save on your investments. But most importantly, we're managing the governance solution so you can focus on your business. We believe you should be spending time on defining the policies and rules around access for your business ecosystem and not managing patching and downtime and upgrades, all the things that are associated with a traditional IGA solution. So now I'm going to hand over to Brian to go into more details on how Oracle Access Governance works.
Thanks, Eleanor. So digging into this a little bit, Oracle Access Governance is a new cloud-native service, and it's doing things in a very different way than how we've traditionally done them. But I wanted to reassure everyone that the traditional roles and functions that we've supported with our OIG product line will still be continued. So some of the major ones would be either compliance or security-related functions, but also business functions as well. So from integrations that we deal with, the things that we protect, it's still the same things that we've done in the past. So you'll still have protection over the major SaaS applications, both Oracle and other. You'll still be able to integrate in with your HCM systems. All of that really doesn't change. The key change that we're introducing here is the ability to add advanced identity attribute stores and policy sources into the mix. And why this is important is when you're getting into a true dynamic permission management system, it really relies on the attributes that you're using to make the decisions being updated, being broader than what we've done in the past. And some examples of that would be, in addition to, just what role you have within the company, whether you're a contractor, full-time employee, whether, whatever your business role is. Now we're really looking at things like, are you logged in through a VPN, or are you in the building? Do you have a certain level of training that you've accomplished? Because that would be one of the evaluations. In the case of being on call, let's say that we've got production hosts that we want to protect, and although you might have the same role that would allow you into it, you might work for the right manager to allow you into it. We want to make sure that there's a purpose for you to be in there, and therefore a policy may say that you must be on call at the same time, and therefore that would also be evaluated. So new capability. And we're really making this much more robust. That way you increase the amount of things that you can do with this. So digging in a little bit deeper on really what we mean by advanced analytics at the core and the use cases that would come off from that. So I've come up with a couple of items here. These are by no means the entire list, but these are some very mainstream things that you can probably resonate with. So starting out with Access Review, which also happens to be the first release of Access Governance that's usable now. So let me go through a little bit of what the prior experience might have looked like in any one of the traditional IGA vendors. So typically somebody gets an email, it's very cryptic in what the name of the thing is that needs to be approved. It is for one of the employees that reports to you. You have really no information about it. It's asking you to go into a system and either approve it or revoke it. No information, and because you have no information, you really have to fall back on either taking a bunch of time to send out emails and ask what it's for, or you fall back into trust, which is I trust my employee. If they requested it, they must really need it, and therefore I'm going to approve. It's a way of doing it. It's not very secure, and it does leave risk within your system. So the way that we're producing this capability is where the machine will actually go produce an outcome that we think that you should choose, which is either to approve it or to remove it. We tell you straight away that that's the case. If you, regardless if you plan on approving it based on our recommendation or revoking it, we give you the insights behind it to really understand what the alignment would be, what the concerns might be, and enable you to make a more high fidelity decision. Workflows is another major area that we're focused on with our analytics. And I think everyone knows that the workflows are very tedious to set up, and really by workflows we mean approval flows within the system. They have to be updated frequently as the organization evolves. Typically, you end up with a large volume of these, therefore keeping them straight is problematic. This is an area that advanced ML really plays well. So we can look at the tendencies of a admin that controls these type of workflows, and we can build, I guess, predictive nature based on what they've done in the past and what their tendencies are. We can also take a look at the actual thing that's being protected or approved for, its criticality, what risk follows it, and we can also make other machine-informed decisions based on the outcome of that. Obviously, we do this to reduce workload, reduce cognitive load, but if an admin decides that they don't like the workflow that we put out there, we give the option to edit it or redo it. So next major area that I would dig into is permission management. As you know, today, it is largely around manual approval or RBAC. While we are keeping that, we're also giving you the ability to auto-assign and revoke permissions based on policy and risk. And with a more dynamic system, aided by advanced analytics, we believe that it will actually produce a more reliable result based on who should have access to something than what a human could actually do. And the last thing that I'll talk about on this slide is blast radius. So we're actually looking to revamp the concept of segregation of duties. So SOD of today is largely also based on policy, but they're more static policies. They don't have the smarts in them typically to evolve with the organization over time. If something gets outdated, they will let through risk because it's not a part of one of the static evaluations that are put up. And in this capability of blast radius, so we're constantly looking at your identities and not just one permission, because one permission does not tell the story. We're looking at everything that they have, and we're picking out a more complex risk, which would be, the toxic combinations of permissions is a prime example where we can not only influence the policy based on this, but we can also raise alerts and we can make this available for action and remediation now. So looking at the functional overview, you'll notice that we haven't split this up in the traditional way that IGA systems have been referred to, which is typically entitlement management, access review, workflows, provisioning and reconciliation, all of those type of things. We're actually cross-segmenting based on compliance, intelligence, access management, and identity orchestration. And we're doing that because while we still support all of those things, access governance really takes a look at it in a new and unique way. And so starting on governance and compliance, some things that you can expect from there, in addition to the fact that we still support traditional campaigns, which will be around until they just are no longer used. But we are bringing in event-based or what people are commonly referring to micro certifications, which basically means that if something material has changed, and I'll give an example of this. So if I'm an employee and I've had access to email because it's more of a birthright type thing of joining a company, and it's never been a problem that I've had email, then even if it could be caught up in a review cycle, why do I need to approve email for somebody because it never is revoked? However, there are other things that carry risk with them. And if I change from like a full-time employee to a contractor, or I'm reorged, I move and I get a new manager, maybe I change job roles altogether, those type of life events really should have focus put on them. And therefore, instead of bothering the entire company during a compliance review or a campaign, we will focus you in on the things that really deserve attention and build review tasks based off of those. So looking at identity intelligence, we're putting this out as its own vertical because everything else in the system is driven from it. The prescriptive analytics that we've talked about, the identity risk assessment, blast radius, usage reporting, and there are many more. We just come up with some high-level bullets to give you an idea. But the amount of intelligence that we've set up to gather and decipher is it's a fair amount today, and it's growing over time, including eventual true usage-based analytics where we can line up the provisioned with what people are actually doing with it, which will provide, in my estimation, huge amount of value in reducing risk. Looking at access management. So again, while we're still supporting, what's traditional there today, manual assignments, RBAC, we're really focused in on the policy-based access control with attributes. It enables things like just-in-time and temporal access because we can do an evaluation at the point of impact. We can actually enforce guardrails, like we talked a bit about segregation of duties. These type of guardrails would also be enforced through dynamic policy that sits on top of other functional policies. And lastly, but not least, is an identity orchestration layer that we put in the product to replace the concept of the traditional connector servers. And we'll explain a bit more in a couple of use cases and really what this means. But we should stop thinking about static connectors, and we should start thinking about more big data, big identity data coming into your system that is highly correlated, highly enriched, and ultimately is something that can be subscribed to by any system that would need it. Now, in the early days, it really only supports access governance because we actually need that level of data to serve how we built the system. But the possibilities in this area are quite endless over time. So we have all the traditional framework from the identity stores to access catalogs and that type of thing, including workflow engines. But again, it's not really about the what, because everybody out there is going to be talking about similar whats. It's really about how we're doing this that is truly unique. So diving in on really what to expect from us this year. So the thing that we've released now is really access review. It is supporting day one OIG for obvious reasons, and the fact that we're trying to give some new capability to our existing customers as a first priority, but we are not stopping here with this capability. We'll be adding things like native support for database, Fusion applications, third parties like Microsoft will be coming in as well. And so this will be something that we integrate in this new model, or we add integrations for in this new model over time and at a fairly high velocity, and we'll be adding those based on customer demand. So kind of what's coming next, and this is really that probably 12-month preview from now, is now you get more of the comprehensive access governance, which would include additions on our workflows, the ability to do advanced permission management, and this is really where the PBAC model comes in at. And so again, the thing we've got now adds extreme value and analytics on top of your existing IGA solution. In our next major iteration, we become the full IGA solution. So diving into access reviews a bit more, there's a lot of text on here primarily because I want you all to be able to go into some detail with me, although I'm not going to cover it at that level of detail in the presentation. It really sits on a handful of major capability. So again, we'll talk about analytics at the core because it truly is analytics at the core of this capability. You can still build an access review campaign, although we've made it dramatically simpler for you to do it. And we've made it possible for you to do it based on things that really need to be certified in bulk. So you're thinking privacy, SOX, HIPAA, these type of things. We'll still have campaigns likely into the future, and be able to quickly select everything that's under SOC scope, we believe is big. And by the way, defining a campaign in this is truly just seconds of work. It's very simple, and I'll demonstrate to you really what that is. Moving on, again, we will tell you if you should approve or if you should take a deeper look. That's a part of the prescriptive nature of the product. You can bulk approve low risk permissions, meaning that if you trust the analytics that we've done, there's no use spending a ton of time on this. Just go ahead and select them all easily, and I'll show you how that would be done as well. And go ahead and approve them. If you want to dive deep into each one of these, we give you the analytics so you can really make an informed decision. And we also provide the ability for self-reviews. And really what this means is don't actually send a review request to a manager until you've sent it to the permission holder first. Because one thing that we've seen over time is that humans, if they really don't need something and it's brought to their attention, they will probably remove it themselves, and therefore it never actually has to go up to the manager to make a decision on. And if they really need it, they'll give a new justification, and that in and of itself is an insight. Something else that's major in here, and again, we'll demonstrate this, is the ability to see who has access to what. As simple as this is, it's a missing feature universally within IGA solutions. The ability to go in and see what access I have all in one place, see what organization my team, see what access my organization or team has. And then coming soon, and it will be within some of the next iterations that we put out, likely in about a month, will be the true event-based or risk-based micro certification. So with that, I will turn it back over to Eleanor to talk about how this practically works.
Lots of people are asking about migration to Oracle Access Governance from OIG. And to be honest, the word migration is quite triggering. It makes you think of lots of hours of doing map and gap analysis, writing scripts, of doing tons of testing, of planning downtimes. And we're here to tell you that there is no migration. We have an agent that you can install on your target system, and that talks to Access Governance, so you can run side by side and keep your current IGA solution while leveraging Access Governance for specific functionality. So all you have to do is provide Access Governance, the database or application URL, user ID and password, and then Access Governance compiles an agent for you to download. So then you place that agent on a machine with local network access to the database or the application, and you just start it. And then the agent initiates communication between your target governance system and Oracle Access Governance. The rest is automatic. So Oracle Access Governance processes the data via the agent to produce its predictive insights on your target governance system. So you can run Access Governance side by side with OIG for as long as you want. You could start today, try out Access Governance, see the benefits immediately, side by side with your OIG. You can switch over completely to Access Governance when you're ready, or you could keep OIG running for forever if you wanted. So in summary, what I'd like you to take away: prescriptive analytics helps you reduce your risk while reducing effort. We present you the information that you need to make the decision regarding risk around particular access. Then you can do that in an informed way and quickly, minimizing the risk overall to your system. There's no migration required to use Oracle Access Governance. Zero migration. You can run it straight away today, run it side by side with OIG, and later with other competitive IGA solutions. So that's coming too. And behind everything, we've put extreme focus on ease of use, because we want to make sure that business users can take advantage of Access Governance easily, so they can make decisions quickly to keep your system secure. And to show you exactly how much focus and improvement we put into UI, Brian's going to do a demonstration for you now, and that will speak for itself.
Okay, ready to go. So straight away coming into the landing page for access governance, you'll notice that it's a departure of what we've done in the past with our governance solutions or identity solutions for that matter. You'll notice that we've actually switched to more of a conversational flow. We put extreme focus on not giving you things that are really just irrelevant information. Every screen has a purpose, and every element in that screen is to help you serve that one purpose. And even starting off with the landing page here, right now the user that I'm logged in as has admin permission, and they also happen to be a reviewer. And so the section at the top is really the panels that talk about the things that the tasks that I have to review. And the things at the bottom are the things, are campaigns that I own and my ability to create new campaigns. We tried to spell it out for you easily on how many overall work items you have, how many we would consider high risk, something you should go look at, and then also we've tried to put a time bound in here that if you just want to look at the things that are coming up next, you can certainly do that. So I think what I'll do is dive off into the creation of the campaign flow first, and then we'll get into the real interesting part, in my opinion, which is really how we've changed the workflow and the experience around reviews themselves. So let's say that I want to create a new certification campaign. This is very flexible. So by default, the entire universe of the enterprise is selected. You can see up here that's a small enterprise, and basically in the who has access and what are they accessing and all of that type of thing, we give you some counts of really what that scope is. You can go into each one of these and add further filters, and you can do more than one, or you can do all of them. Or you can actually just say, hey, I'm fine with doing a campaign for my entire company with everything we have, and you can click on go to workflows. So for the purpose of this, I'm going to dive into, okay, what are they accessing? And so in this one, I may want to say, we'll take a look at things that would be more financial in nature. So let me flag payroll. Maybe I actually want to take a look at my HRM along with that and a couple other payroll apps. And then let me apply my selections. Now we can see that we've applied it, and we can see what the universe of that is. I could go in and do more if I would like, but for the purposes of the demo, I won't. I'll go to a workflow. You can see that we've actually seen what you've done, and we've pre-completed a workflow for you. You can look at it. If you like it, keep it. If you don't, click here and modify it, and then move on to the next step. The information that we ask you for here is very simple. It's what do you want to call the campaign? Do you want to give it a description, and who owns it? And by default, it shows up as me owning it, basically the person that is creating it. However, if I'm doing it on behalf of someone else, I can go put their name in here, and it will be assigned to them as the owner. I can run it now. I can schedule it for later. I can schedule repeats of the campaign for something that would be ongoing. And assuming that I'm good with all of that, including the auto-assigned name that the system gave me that is changeable, by the way, I can click next. I can look at my summary, and I click create, and I get a dialog that tells me it's ready to go. Now, this one just focuses me in on the one that I just created in an upcoming campaign. If I want to see all of my ongoing or any of the above, I can see that, or I can actually take a look at all campaigns. It gives me a status on what's going on, gives me the ability to dive into one of these and actually see who it's impacting, the percentage of completion, all of the standard things that you would expect. We also have the ability to view graphical report that you can take away in a PDF file, download CSVs if you want raw data coming out of the system. And that's really it. Super simple in the entire process to manage campaigns. And so now let me dive back over to really what I think is the major value. So let's say that I wanted to look at all 229 that are assigned to me. I click here. It retrieves them. Now you'll notice that I've got an identity, what the thing is that's being assigned, the manager name that would be responsible for that person, what the assignment type was, is it a permission account, role, etc., the campaign that drove it. And now we come to the more prescriptive nature of this, which is we're telling you whether or not we think you should accept it or revoke it. Now, let's say that I've, don't quite trust the system yet. I want to see if I agree. I click view and I come in and I can see immediately the data that's backing that up. So it turns out for this permission, everybody that reports to the same manager with me has this permission. Alignment with peers in the same job code. So people that do the same job as I do across the company, all of them have it. And 92% of my peers within my same organization also have this. And this expands it out more broadly than your existing manager group, but now to the larger organization that you're in. We will show you the audit trail of when this was assigned, why it was assigned, as much data as was provided in the justification. We'll show you the outcome of each one of the prior reviews. And something interesting here is within the last 6 months, has anything changed? And again, this goes back to the life event that we talked about, like moving from employee to contractor, vice versa, changing roles, getting reorged, all of that type of thing that would actually trigger some change would be required within your permissions. Those would be listed here. And so again, with this, I can accept it, I put a justification, I'll spend a lot of time typing out a dissertation with that, and now that's done. So let's say that, okay, I trust everything that the system told me to accept. I'm going to come up here to my easy search, and I'm going to click on recommend accept. It just filters those for me. I'm going to bulk select, and I'm just going to accept them. Obviously, if I were doing this for real, I would put a better justification in there, but for the demo, I won't. And it's done. I may remove that filter. And now I see what we're left with is everything that we've recommended to be reviewed. And so with these, we really do recommend that people dive into the insights and take a look at it. Now you see a much different view in the fact that, very few people reporting to my same manager have this. Roughly 50% of the people that have the same job code with me have this. None of my direct reports, because I'm a manager in this case, have this entitlement. And overall peer groups in the organization, only 13% of those have it. And when we're representing this in a percentage, you're thinking, well, if 50% of the people across the company have it, maybe 13% within the organization have it, then maybe that's okay. And the one thing that I would point out is trust our assessment more than just the percentages, because the advanced analytics that we've got running in the back of this actually take more into account than just percentages. I mean, it is true ML peer group plotting, and it is multidimensional in how that works, and volumes and critical mass of data are also taken into account. But clearly you can see this is an entitlement that would be or an account that would be out of the norm for this person. And again, it's the same screen construct where you get the other data as well. And so let's say on this one, I decide, yep, I agree with the system. I'm going to revoke that and give it just a brief justification, and we will revoke it. So the ultimate outcome of this is we're providing data and we're letting people see, really what this is, because we recognize that moving from a manual thing to a fully automated thing, we'll have to earn trust with our customers that the analytics are really that high fidelity. But in the fullness of time, I fully expect admins to come in and say, just automatically accept everything that should be accepted and revoke everything that should be revoked. And therefore, the entire concept of somebody ever coming to the screen goes away. So one other major piece of capability that I would like us to look at is the who has access to what. Again, I talked a little bit before about, common capability. You would think it would be common capability out there, but it's really not, being able to see this entire universe. And so in the initial release of the product, we support me as a user saying everything that I have access to. And they're grouped by application. You can change groupings to roles, and we'll add other groupings of this as we go based on customer feedback. You can search for anything, any of the apps that may be in here, any permission type. And so quickly one place to see that. Because the user that I'm using for this is not a manager, it will not show any data for direct reports, although in later demos, we can actually show you how that direct report item shows up. And basically, it's the same as you saw in the individual access, but now it includes a people dimension to it. And in future iterations of this, we will add the ability for super users to be able to segment across entire companies and across entire organizations. Org leaders such as SVPs within an organization that have a lot of people reporting up to them will also add other capability to allow those type of views with drill down also. And so with that, I think those are the high points on the demo. We were really happy with the change in the UX, and we hope that you all will be as well.
Now we'll transition to the Q&A portion of the presentation. I'll go ahead and pick a few questions out of the Q&A box below. The first one, how can customers get started with access governance, and what support will Oracle provide for adoption and migration efforts?
So yeah, I'll take that one. So we have a lot of resources available on our website, including documentation, product tours, product pages. We've got blogs, so you can start looking at those straight away to get more deep information around how access governance works. We're updating our security blogs and social channels on a constant basis. So as we're adding new features, you'll see documentation about those there. If you want to start playing with access governance in a live system, we have a lab that you can access from OCI if you have an OCI account. Then if you're looking to start testing against your own systems, start looking at a possible coexistence with OIG, and you're looking for deeper support, you can engage with our support organization. We have what's called a Lighthouse program, and that helps you through the transition, helps you with any planning that you need to do, answer any questions, any specific questions. And it's really, our support organization is moving away from just being a break-fix type organization to one that's with you every step of your journey. So please do avail of what we call our Lighthouse program. You can just log a service request and mention the Lighthouse program, getting into access governance, and we'll be able to walk you through all the steps of getting that set up.
Great, thank you, Eleanor. It sounds like a really good resource. I have another question here. What data sources will access governance connect to at this release?
I'll take that. So initially, the data source is OIG. And again, the reason why we've done that is that we wanted to provide some additional value for our existing customers. That being said, all of the data sources that OIG comes to the table with, that it's integrated, automatically flow through to access governance. And so As an example, if your OIG is connected to a HCM system that's connected to various PaaS SaaS applications out there that it's governing, AG gets those as a pass-through by default. Now, fairly quickly as we come out of the first release, as I've mentioned briefly in some of the slides, we will be incrementally adding others. And the thing I would point out is we've developed our orchestration engine in such a way that the velocity of introduction with new integrations is much better than the past. That and the fact that we're not going to recreate the wheel on these things. This orchestration engine can connect into existing ICF-based connectors. It can connect in through APIs to cloud provisioning and reconciliation providers. And really calling it an orchestrator gives us the ability to, again, not recreate the wheel and plug into other things that exist today and introduce new things quickly. So just a couple of the things that will be natively brought into AG directly. First up, we're looking at Fusion applications. We're looking at OCI-IAM coming in, Oracle database, obviously. But we're not just focused on Oracle apps. I mean, obviously, we want to give some high priority billing for those because it is Oracle. But we'll be moving quickly on to other IAM systems like from AWS, Active Directories, and even connecting into our competitor solutions.
Great, thank you. And thanks for giving us an overview of the flexibility that's available today and to come. Another question we have coming in is, will Oracle Access Governance replace IDCS or OCI-IAM, or will these services work together?
I'll take that one as well. So they're complementary. Keep in mind that OCI-IAM is first a cloud IAM solution that has enterprise capability built into it, primarily around the access management piece, so authentication. And today, when you instantiate a version of access governance, it is leveraging OCI-IAM for the IDP capability, so the IDP identity provider capability in it, to do the authentication piece. And as we move forward, we'll have more complementary integrations between the two. So they're not a replacement. It's not a competitive solution. It is truly complementary.
Great. Okay, I think we have time for just one more question. How are the number of users metered in access governance? Are the users pulled into the service from communication with the agent mentioned earlier?
Yeah, absolutely. And sorry, I just assume I'll take that as well. But the agent is bringing over all of the users that would be governed within whatever the solution is that we're connecting to. In this case, the first release, it is OIG. And so it is all of the users that would be active users in OIG. A lot of cloud services would only charge based on logins that are happening, but based on the nature of identity governance, as soon as we see a user come in, we start performing actions on their behalf. We're running the analytics. We're doing all the things we talked about previously in this deck, blast radius, understanding their risk. And that's really where the work comes in for us. And therefore, we bill for all of those active users coming over based on the kind of day zero work that gets done for them.
Just wanted to take a moment to do a quick recap. We have a number of great resources available to learn more about Oracle Access Governance. To point out a few, please be sure to visit our product webpage for key use cases and a product tour. Read the blog post to hear a little bit more about our vision for the future of IGA with access governance. And feel free to read the documentation for more detailed product information. As always, we encourage you to follow Oracle Security on social media for the latest updates and announcements. With that, I just want to say thank you again to Brian and Eleanor today for a great presentation, and thank you to everyone for joining. Have a wonderful day.